This conference will now be recorded.
All right. Okay. Public notice of the annual town meeting for the town of Cottage Grove on Tuesday, April 18th, 2023 at 7 p.m. at the town hall. I'll call the meeting to order. We'll stand for the flag pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You have a copy of last year's minutes for the annual meeting. You need to have a motion and a second to approve or modify the minutes as presented.
Williams moves to approve the minutes as presented.
Motion by Christy Williams to approve. Is there a second?
Duplail, second.
Clay will second the motion to approve the minutes for the April 19th annual town meeting as presented. Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Mark was unanimous. Are there any additions that the electors want to make to the agenda?
Yeah, we're back again for the UTV, ATVs on the township roads. Try to get it passed again.
And ATV. All right. Anything else to add? All right, otherwise we'll move on to the presentation of the 2022 annual town financial statements. We have Jeff here from Johnson Block, who did our audit, and there were copies of it in the back. You want to run through it for us?
Alrighty. Well, hi everyone. My name is Jeff Osbog, as previously mentioned, Jeff Osbog with Johnson Block and Company. And we conducted the financial audit for the town again this year. And so tonight I'm here just to briefly go through a quick overview of the financial statements and then answer any questions you may have with regards to the financial statements as well. So prior to getting into the financials themselves, small on the screen here, so I'll zoom in for you, but I just briefly wanted to go through the content of the audit report. Basically, if you would flip through it, what you would see. So first off would be our independent auditor's report, or our opinion letter. We did provide an unmodified opinion again this year, essentially noting that the financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects and that they are in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. Next come the financial statements and the footnote disclosures. And then in the back of the audit report, there are a few additional supplemental schedules as well. To go along with the audit, we were also engaged to compile and submit the town's annual municipal financial report, or also known as the Form CT. That is due to the Wisconsin DOR on May 15th. So we expect to submit it by then. And then also lastly, at the conclusion of the audit, we are also required to provide the board with a couple of standard audit communication letters as well. These letters identify if there were any new accounting principles that were implemented during the year, if we had any difficulties during the audit, if we identified any audit adjustments that were recorded to the financial statements. We also provide any recommendations or additional comments as well. And then we also identify any deficiencies in internal controls, i.e. material weaknesses or significant deficiencies.
There was nothing new this year.
Nothing new this year. So it's that, but again, these are just standard communication letters that all municipalities get, and the majority of the comments that we have, a lot of our clients also have. So not unusual. Next, the next page here, we get into the actual financials themselves. So this first page here is essentially a condensed balance sheet of the general fund. Starting with the assets there, as you can see, the majority of the town's assets are in the form of cash and taxes receivable at year end. Next come the liabilities. So there were at year end, there were liabilities for accounts payable and other accrued liabilities. Short-term notes payable, that's an annual short-term note that the town uses to help finance road projects on an annual basis. And then grant advance payable, that was a new line item last year in 2021. And so that has to do with American Rescue Plan funding so it's federal funding that was passed through the state. And so the amount on the financial statements is essentially the town's portion of the funding received that has not been spent yet. So it's considered an advance liability. Next come the deferred inflows of resources. The largest line item there deals with the town's tax levy. So it's the 2022 tax roll paid in 23 and it'll be shown as revenue in 2023. And then the net amount is fund balance. And as you can see here at the bottom, we do split out fund balance by the 5 different classifications: non-spendable, restricted, committed, assigned, and unassigned. And then lastly, on the very bottom of the page, we do note that unassigned fund balance is 27% of 2023 budgeted expenditures. And it's actually the town's policy to have that ratio be anywhere from 20 to 25%. So as you can see, as of 12/31/22, the unassigned fund balance ratio to total expenditures exceeded the town's policy. And so the reason we bring that up is because that ratio is a good indicator as to essentially the town's reserve that they have in place, whether to help mitigate any unexpected expenditures, any losses in funding, those type of occurrences. And so overall, as of 12/31/22, the town did have a sufficient essentially reserve in place to help mitigate those potential issues.
Question, do you consider that too high?
2%.
Right, it's 2% higher than the town's range
Highest
policy.
range, though.
What's that?
That's the highest range.
Right. And so typically we would recommend, if municipalities don't really have a policy like that in place, typically we recommend anywhere from like 15 to 25%. So it is on the high, it's above the 25%. It is on the higher range, higher end, but so it's not necessarily too high. It's high, just overall, when you're looking at the policy, it's over the policy, but I don't necessarily consider it too high though. But
If it was 35%,
that's
I would say it was too
right.
too.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
What makes it non-spendable?
Non-spendable, so that classification basically identifies funds that can't be spent. Like it's in a form that can't be spent. So the amounts that make up that balance, actually I wrote that down, relate to prepaid expenditures. So that's an asset. However, those funds have been already spent as of year end, but it's just for 2023. So even though it's an asset to the town, those funds are gone already. They're spent. So they can't, so like the cash is gone. So but prepaid. It's prepaid, but the prepaid asset is considered an asset to the town. It's just not a usable asset in a sense. It's a interesting definition there of what makes up non-spendable, but it's mostly prepaid expenses that are considered an asset to the town, but there's no physical cash that the town can use as of 12/31, basically, because it's already been spent for 2023 purposes for the next year. So the next page here, we get into a summarized income statement, or basically a budget to actual statement. So as you can see on the budget column, this is the final budget after amendments. Overall, the town or the general fund, it was expected that there would be a use of fund balance of about $322,000. So basically the new revenues coming in 22 were expected to be less than the actual expenditures going out. And so when you compare that to the actual column, it was less than expected, but the general fund did actually have a decrease in fund balance of just over $47,000. So that was somewhat in line there to what was originally expected. And when you take a look at the actual line items, revenues, expenditures, other financing sources, comparing the budget to actual, in that sense, each line item there was less than what was expected, was less than what was budgeted for. And then we also have a comparison here of the town's general obligation debt. So here we are comparing the overall outstanding debt as of year end and comparing it to the town's debt capacity, the town's debt limit at year end. So as you can see, both years there, 22 and 21, the town was using not even 3% of its overall debt, general obligation debt capacity. So well within that debt limit there. There we go. Next page here, we have a 5-year historical trend analysis now of the general fund's expenditures. And I won't necessarily get too in depth on the historical side of it. But as you can see there, the largest fluctuation that relates to capital outlay expenditures from 2021 up to 2022. The main purpose or the main reason for that fluctuation, or there's a couple of them, there was a new fire truck that was purchased in 2022, which is a pretty significant expenditure, and also included in capital outlay in 22 were two bridge replacement projects, basically. So there were significant expenditures with regards to that as well. So that was the reason for that large increase there. And then I also just wanted to point out, just comparing 2021 and 2022. So the green line there is public works. So those expenditures also increased. The main reason for that was just approved, additional approved road work essentially was the main reason for that increase. And then public safety is the red line there. That also increased between years. A couple reasons for that. There was some new paving at the police station, the parking lot there. The town's portion of the EMS budget that increased, so that was an additional increase in that expense as well. So those were a couple of the main reasons for that increase. Next page, we have a pie chart analysis now. I know it's a little hard to read there, but this is comparing the 2022 and 2021 expenditures again, but just sort of showing the percentages, the allocations of the different expense classifications in each year. So as we saw, capital outlay had quite a large increase. So in 2022, capital outlay was 26.7% of total expenditures. But then when you look at 2021, capital outlay was only 5.3. So with that large increase, that sort of flowed through to the other classifications, decreasing those. So for example, general government was 8.9% in 22 compared to 14.7 in 2021. So that large increase in capital outlay expenditures fluctuated the other percentages of the other expense classifications between years as well. Just another representation of comparing those expenditures. Next, we have another 5-year analysis now of the general fund's revenues. So as you can see, unlike expenditures, revenues haven't fluctuated as much in the past 5 years. The blue line here at the top, that is the town's tax revenue. So tax revenue is the largest revenue source of the town. So from 2019 to 2020, it has been increasing a little bit, but nothing too large from 2021 to 2022. And then, but as you see, the largest fluctuation there is this sort of pink tan line, and that is intergovernmental charges for services. So as I mentioned previously, one of the large increases in capital outlay was the new fire truck. And so that was actually a joint cost between the town and the village. So the increase in the intergovernmental charges for services was due to the village reimbursing the town for the village's portion of the fire truck. So that was considered a reimbursement, a revenue to the town to help reimburse for the village's cost of the fire truck. But that was really the largest increase in the revenues between years. And then same with expenditures. We have another pie chart analysis here, and sort of the same thing with capital outlay, or light capital outlay, but for the revenue side, the intergovernmental charges for services had a large increase that is now 19.2% in 22 compared to only 7.4%. So with that increase between years, that decreased the other allocations. But again, you'll see taxes was 50%, the largest revenue source again, compared to actually 60% in 2021. So those other percentages decreased due to that increase in the intergovernmental charges for services. And then lastly, we have one final 5-year analysis or historical trend analysis, and this relates to the GO debt, to the debt capacity. We went over this a little bit on a previous slide, but just to show the last 5 years. So the debt limit of the town is the blue line here, and the actual outstanding debt of the town is the red line. So again, the town well within that debt capacity in the past 5 years as well. And we also, on the table here, we also note that I show the equalized value. And the reason we show that is because the equalized value and the town's debt limit are directly correlated, where the town's debt limit is 5% of the town's equalized value, or estimated fair market value of the town's property in any given year. So essentially, when the equalized value goes up, so does the town's debt limit. But with that, that was the last slide there, the presentation. I did want to point out, I know Kim's not here, but just wanted to thank her for her help during the audit this year. I feel like it went by pretty smoothly again. I know with it being her first main audit, so I just wanted to thank her for that and appreciate her help there and keeping things moving and yeah, just helping us out this year. So,
anyone have any questions on our audit? Okay, well, thank you very much.
thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Next on our agenda is the Dane County Sheriff's Office update, and we have Lieutenant Triggs. And are you working today?
I've been 15 hours, I'm good.
I asked her to come and volunteer with me.
Okay.
Volunteer. All right, good evening, everyone. I'm Lieutenant Triggs. If you don't know who I am, I know some familiar faces. I'm the Southeast Precinct Commander for the Dane County Sheriff's Office that oversees the town contract. So I'll just go over the stats briefly as to what we kind of experienced here in the town. So if we look at the calls for service, do you have the stats that were, that's the line. Any chance? If not, I can talk about them anyway. So in 2022, we had a total call for service in the town at 2,887 calls for service. The contract deputies responded to 1,179 and 1,796 calls for service, which accounted for 62% of the calls for service for the town in 2022. If you look at those overall stats, traffic stops were at 1,005, and coming in second were check persons. Now remember, check persons and check property can be some of anything. Someone hears gunfire and we go and check the area, or something suspicious, we go and check that area as well to determine. So that can turn into a variety of different calls, but the way that we document is the initial call is a check person or check area. So that can fluctuate and change and end up being something slightly different. Okay. So getting specific into the town of Cottage calls for service, out of those 62% calls, 562 were of, like I said, check person, check area, where coming in second, or not really coming in second, but focusing on burglaries and non-residential stuff, we had around four burglaries in 2024. We've seen an increase in fraud throughout the county. There's been a lot of scams going along. So I just want to remind everyone to make sure, like, for example, someone was using my name and saying Lieutenant Triggs is calling and you have a warrant. Make sure that we will never ask you for money. No law enforcement officer will ask you for money or anything like that. So if you have anything like that, just make sure that you give 911 a call and just say, hey, this person is trying to scam, kind of report it, and we'll have the contract deputies come and take a report, and hopefully we can follow up. But it's been increasing throughout the county and what we've seen. Stolen autos is also a thing within the county, but luckily here in the town, we've only seen one in 2022, but we've seen thefts from auto. Looking at the citation data, so citation data overall for 2022 for the town of Cottage Grove, and this is including our beat deputies as well as contract deputies. Majority of the calls or citations were speeding in 55-mile-per-hour zone. I can tell you that that stat is from our traffic team. They patrol Highway 12 and they pull a lot of people over speeding down that hill, and it's kind of like an easy target. So, you know. And people speed all over the place. So specific into the contract citations, we see that numerous individuals have been exceeding the posted speed limit at 195 citations. And also we see 57 speeding in a 55-mile-per-hour zone. One of the things that the contract deputies did do in 2022 is they wrote for a grant for a speed sign, which they have utilized quite effectively. And they've been able to document how fast people have been traveling on town roads. Jen, is that on Damascus Road?
Apparently there's one. Yeah, that ours is.
Okay, so the one that the
They got
deputies
one on the
received.
grant and we bought 2 more this year.
Yep. So we're able to see the data, see what the traffic volume is at what time of day, seeing what speeds and number of vehicles are traveling on that road and how fast they're going. And then they can kind of pinpoint their enforcement a little bit more to help assist with, speeders. Jen, do you have anything to reference specifically to traffic boards, or anything of that nature?
We're seeing a lot more compliance. It's not like we didn't know the issues existed, but now where it does specifically tell you the time of day. We know it's 7 o'clock's a problem. We know 4 o'clock's a problem. Sometimes even late evening hours, bar time, things like that. So it's picking up outrageous speeds. Sometimes you see a high one, but it could be us going to an emergency. It does have photo capabilities, so it does take pictures. And it does, even if we take it down, it says impacted. So if someone were to crash into the post, we would be notified right away that there was impact or someone trying to tamper. So it's pretty solid. They did a really good training with us. I think Virginia, and they'll communicate if we have a problem with it. They want to know right away. They'll replace it if there's a problem. So it's been actually a really good thing to have.
And if you guys ever see or want to kind of move to a certain area where you've noticed like increased speedy, just let Jen or the other contract deputies know. We can get that moved for you so that, we can kind of enforce that. And, visual compliance is a thing, and if people see that sign flashing and they tend to slow down. So some of the things that, these speed details, I think that were sent out as well. You can kind of see the different speed limits and the number of citations. And you see that around that 55-mile-per-hour zone, that's when a lot of citations have been issued. And you can see what the average speed has been at 72.5 miles per hour in the 55. And then also, what's concerning is the second most is that 35-mile-per-hour zone, where you can see that the top speeds and the average speed is 52 miles per hour. So people are flying pretty much. And we know, throughout the county, we have numerous accidents, especially at speeds. And we're working on trying to do as much as possible by being visual and enforcing those through citation. One of the most positive things that also occurred in 2022 is National Night Out was held here. Jen, you want to talk just briefly on National Night Out?
Sure.
I like putting you on the spot, so.
That's fine. National Night Out rotates throughout the county. Every year we do one. The contract deputies in the area, the community deputies, we all put it on together. We get everything possible. We get all the squads from Dane County to come out. We get the village police, we get the town police, we get fire trucks, tow trucks, ambulances, the Army, National Guard. Everybody comes out so people can have a positive interaction with us. They have the time to ask us questions. You know, a lot of times people don't want to ask us questions. They feel they're stupid questions. It's if you're not asking if you didn't know the answer already, and we're happy to answer that stuff. So yeah, it was a really good experience. We do it, it's about 2.5 hour event. We feed everybody for free. So next year it won't be here again, but it's a really good experience if you just want to get to know your community officers. Yeah, I think unless there's anything else you want to add to it.
No, thank you. So that's the stats that we have for 2022. Didn't have any questions? Reference that?
Any questions?
Of course, Alicia, go ahead.
Thank you for the info. Is this a year? In a year?
In a year.
Can you give us your name and address for the clerk?
Oh, sure. Alicia Roush, 4552 Violence Road. So are these stats for a year?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're from January 1st of 2022 to 2022.
I just want to make sure I understand them. So on page, or whatever it was, where it says 2022 Town of Cottage Grove contract citations, you go back to that one?
Yep.
So the exceed zone and posted was 195 total for the year?
Yep.
For 3 deputies? Yeah?
Mhm.
Okay. So 195 divided by 3 averages about 4 citations a month, is that right? I just want to make sure I'm understanding it. So if you divide 195 by 3 deputies by 12 months, is that what they're averaging?
Well, let me do the math.
It's not my specialty, so that's why I'm asking. I just want to make sure I understand the numbers, just so I can.
So yeah, that's around, somewhere around about.
Like 4 a
When
month?
is that? I don't have my calculator, but.
What was number 195? Got the
195.
calculator out. I'm not doing.
I know.
I just want to make sure I understand.
195 divided by 3 of us?
Because there's 3, right? So
65.
65 divided by 12 months,
5.4.
5.4 a month. Divided by 4 weeks, so like 1 point.
But that's not, that's just specifically that speed group though. That's not
Okay.
everything up there.
All right, I just want to make sure that I understand kind of how the numbers break down in a month.
Mhm.
But then you get the other deputies are out here too.
Yeah, I'm aware.
So it's more than that, really.
It really is for the town itself. And so, one of the things is that, a lot of times they're geared by calls for service by 911 dispatch. And I know Jen specifically, of course, doesn't issue citations. Now it could be whatever the speed limit might be, the citations is for. But I know also is that deputies give warnings as well. And so I've had many conversations with them in reference to that, and especially if someone is exceeding the speed limit, especially at 15 miles over, that, I'd like to see more citations, most definitely. If you want to cut that down a little bit.
You want to also mention besides our contract deputies that we have using our building, the detective and
Oh, yeah, sure. So of course,
the
yeah.
additional people that we get here.
Yeah. So we have a detective also at the town of Cottage Grove, as well as our emergency preparedness coordinator, who's always out assisting schools with active shooter drills. Unfortunately, that's the reality of what we kind of live in now.
We had her present to the election workers prior to election this year.
That was beneficial and helpful. So in any situation or any businesses, especially if you guys own any businesses around, you can reach out to Jocelyn to give you guys a little pointers on how to protect your business, especially in the event of active shooter event.
Our contract service, you do it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week?
We always have at least one on.
I thought that quite a bit for just three people.
What, the whole town?
Yeah.
It's actually not. So basically, we have a 9 to 5 and a 5 PM to 1 AM.
Hmm.
And then we flex the hours based on the needs of the contract, rush hour. I'll work at 7 AM a lot too. Just
And then the
because 7
county
AM
fills
rush
in
hour.
that.
And then
that
whenever
white
we're not
spot.
there, yep.
That's what I
time
thought.
hours is where we make sure we're there.
So technically, I mean, yes, there's coverage
Right.
24/7. I mean.
But for 3 people, that's a lot of hours.
If we're working the same hours as everybody else that works in the department, we just, you know, if a call comes in towards the end of my shift and let's say I don't have relief, I'll stay
Mhm.
and handle it just so it is handled by the people that are going to be dealing with this ongoing issues or anything like that.
Any other questions? Thank you, Lieutenant Trigg.
Thank you. You guys have a great evening.
Oh, yes, we will. The next item was the update on speed boards, which you've heard some of it. We do have 3 of them now. We have one on Gaston Road, one on Vilas, and one on Damascus. And we can move them around to wherever we think there might be a problem.
It's on Vilas Hope now, not Vilas.
Violet Soap, yeah.
Yeah, it's Vilas Hope.
You're picking on you West Siders. You're picking on you West Siders.
Yeah, that's where you belong.
So, any questions on speed boards?
What's the data that's being collected on them? Why are they there?
It gives us,
I think it slows people down.
Yeah, especially at night when that thing lights up on you. It's like,
You want me to answer that?
yeah,
So you're just asking like, why the speed boards exist?
Yeah.
So basically the speed sign, like a speed limit sign is universal. It's everywhere in the country you go. In America, they're all the same. I haven't traveled abroad too much, so I can't tell you over there, but here they're all the same. It doesn't matter where you are, where you live. That speed sign is universal, but when you drive past the same sign every day, you become complacent to it. And that's where we were finding a lot of our traffic issues. You know it exists, but you just don't care. Or you've drove this road 1,000 times and didn't realize there was a change. Like your road on Vilas, it changed 5 years ago. People still don't realize it. So what the speed thing does is it does get your attention. It's flashing. Flashing lights are the first thing, like even with our police cars, they get attention. We got the sign flashing at you. Okay, look, I'm 1 over the speed limit. Okay, I didn't realize it was 35. It actually puts people in check. The compliance numbers have increasingly gone up because now people realize, oh my gosh, I didn't know this road was 35 now. So that's what we're trying to do, is just deter that bad behavior so that people slow down and go the speed limit that they should be.
so some of the data we'll see is driving the speed limit, those that exceed and by how much or how many are under it, gives us the count of cars per hour.
And then when people are saying that there's a problem, we can confirm with actual factual data that it is or it is not.
Yeah.
But not replacing speed enforcement, right?
No.
These signs are not going to be replacing that because
No.
presence is a huge deterrent, more than signs, because people are realizing they can collect that I'm going 80, but they're not going to know it's me, right? That's not going to take too long before people.
It will
figure
take your
that out.
picture if you're going that fast.
Yeah.
So we have that too.
It'll
It'll be sent right to my email, I promise.
Have you been driving too fast?
Never. I enforce it on the road.
That's your picture twice.
Next item is to set the date for next year's annual town meeting. The date by statute would be April 16th, the 3rd Tuesday. Is there a
So moved.
motion to set it
To play, so move.
for 4/16?
Yep.
Is there a second?
Andrews will second.
Steve Anders is seconding the motion to set the annual town meeting for 4/16/24. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Unanimous. Then we'll go to UTV and ATV on town roads. I've got Mike Anderson.
Now we're just back again to try to get it okayed for town road use on the YouTube. Oh, Michael Anderson,
What
sorry,
address?
4582 Lotus Lane, Madison. So we've been here, this is our fourth time here, trying to get it passed. We see no reason why. I mean, it's just like having another vehicle or not having another vehicle. You're possibly replacing it with a UTV versus a vehicle. As far as making the roads busier, I mean, I don't really see it causing that issue. They're all over, everybody's passing around, some Prairie, all over is passed, Cambridge is passed. Bill's got a lot more information on, just to help us out on the towns that have passed around us. It's getting more popular. Other towns aren't having issues with people speeding, flying around, causing trouble. At least, it'd be nice to get it opened, and if it doesn't work, you can shut it down. Just as a trial period, open it up, see what happens. I mean, it's not, if there's issues, then we look at it again. So,
Do you care to speak about the one death that was in Waterloo last year?
well, it's gonna happen. I mean, it's
You're talking about the two
the
girls?
two girls. They shouldn't have been on it anyways, but they're on a farm, and their grandpa was there, but he was, it's a horrible thing. It's gonna happen. It happens in cars. People die in cars every day. And bikes, motorcycles. I mean, snowmobiles on the snowmobile trails. I mean, it's always a possibility.
You hate to see it, but
Yeah,
it is what it is.
Yeah.
but there is an age limit on the roads for them too. Kids that age are not gonna be, by law, they can't be on the roads riding. The UTVs, you gotta be 16. ATVs, you gotta go through a safety program. So, I mean, it's just as safe as a car, in my opinion. I mean, like mine, I got turn signals on it, I got windshield washer, I got wipers,
Seatbelts?
belts. I mean,
Got airbags?
well, no, but
Just wondering. I don't own one, so I don't know what they come with.
I mean, no, but they're safe. I mean,
A bicycle don't have airbags
they're
or
on the street, they get
motorcycle don't
every
have
day.
airbags.
Right.
No. Sometimes they're bad enough on the roads.
I
Do you
mean,
want all roads done?
well, all the town roads would be nice, but I mean, if we did from here, it'd be fine. I understand going towards Violets over there, that's half town, half village, but yeah, all the town roads,
I think what you would do, Chris, is you'd mark all the roads, but then the roads you did not want them on, then you'd put the slash, you'd actually separately mark them, no route.
You know what? That's a job for you.
Well, actually, there's no cost to the township.
I realize that, but you need to come up with what roads you would want us to allow it on, which ones you wouldn't.
Would that be something you'd want to get together with maybe the law enforcement and with Dan with the highway department as well?
I think personally, I would want to see what you want to propose to us first. And at that
If
point,
that would help
then-
out the whole scenario, I'd be
then we
glad
could
to do
distribute
that.
it to police, Dan, for comments. And then if you want, we could then put that, once we would have all of that, then we could put it on a town board agenda for,
Would we present that to you then, or who would we present that to? Or could bring it to a town board meeting, or would you sooner see that ahead of time before an actual meeting?
I guess I'd want to see it beforehand so that then we could send it out to the various other people to get their comments on it rather than get it at a meeting. We can't do anything because I haven't looked at it long enough or
That's what I meant, yeah.
whatever.
yeah, because the biggest thing would be he's
Yeah, but we would want to get together
Yeah.
because my brother's actually involved down in Grant County and they actually work with the sheriff's department down there. And, down there you can even get on some of the state highways down in that area.
I didn't think you could write on any state.
You can get provisions like, well, the town of Finnwar, which you and I both know.
Yeah,
You can come in on 61 and 18 from a town road, you know, it's maybe just a quarter of a mile or something, but you can get that access. And I know like Fenimore and Platteville down there, and I don't know if you're aware, but the Dells, the whole city of the Dells, you can ride
Yeah.
in the Dells.
I know Marquette, well, 73 is open going through Nescoro.
Is that an updated one you got, Chris?
I don't think so.
'Cause
I think that's an older one.
2020.
what's the latest one?
2022.
I think this is 2020.
Where you see it? Yeah, this is 2020 as well. That's the latest.
It might be, but it's a fact. It's
Yeah.
the state highways, Crawford County, Grant County, all over.
You get special provisions to get into.
The way it works, the town gives you permission for town roads, county for county roads, the state for state roads. And then there's another act that they just passed where it's 35 miles or under, the municipality, the township or the village or city on state roads allow, it's legal. They have the jurisdiction then, the town or village or the city does. Like in Wisconsin, though.
Like up at the Dells, we're 12 and 16.
Yes.
Going through downtown
Mhm.
Dells.
Lake
You can
Mills
ride.
just opened up this Friday, and there's a state highway goes through Lake Mills. Waterloo has 2 state highways. Juneau's got 2 state highways, and it's legal when it's 35 or under.
Of course, that wouldn't affect us here at the township level because we don't have any.
But how would you expect the police officers to, let's say, arrest a person on a UTV that's going cross country?
Meaning they
Well, I mean-
can pull you over just like an automobile.
Okay, but they don't have the access. If you're driving down the trail,
Well, yeah, then
We don't have
they're
no
not
trails.
enforcing that.
There's no trails here.
It'll be
There
on
would
roads.
be no
It's all
trails.
Wisconsin.
Be the road.
It's
but
all
that
roads.
was
Well,
one of
we-
the things that we brought to you guys last time, was that you have to find some trails to go.
No, it's
No,
all
you
road.
can't. Not gonna happen.
We're in a farming community here where everything's under crops and you just, I mean, we got the snowmobile trails that
Yeah.
go through farmland, but it's a whole different scenario. That's off
Strictly road.
season and there's no crops, where that's all permitted land as well. But there's actually an ordinance that you can, for the township, that, I don't know if you've seen copies of this, Chris, but you can put language, you can state what you want here, and if you want them to have 4 ways or turn signals on these things or whatever. Airbags would be a difficult situation.
They're big and a collapsible steering column. They don't have-
But Bill put together a little informational packet here,
Okay,
and I would very happily leave it with the township for you
Okay.
to review. You can pass it around and give you a little hindsight before the meeting as well, and
we can make copies of it for the.
well, I'll just leave this, yeah, if you want to make copies.
If I can add just one thing, we talked about fatalities, Bill Blaska, 707 Cherokee Path, Lake Mills. Fatalities is a serious thing. The only person that's getting hurt is that person. The person that rides a motorcycle knows there's a risk when he gets on that motorcycle. And most of the time, they're not hurting nobody else. And the same with these here, but they got seatbelts, roll cage. Last year, the DNR, he's got it in this packet here. The report is really interesting to read. The whole state of Wisconsin, this affects. Now, we're just talking about road riding, because no trails. We're not doing trails down here. 4 fatalities last year, according to the DNR. It's interesting to read what happened in the whole state. And that was from January to October. It's the last that I have. One person got hit with a train. He's crossing the railroad tracks. They don't know if he had a seatbelt on. Now, he didn't hurt nobody else, but it wasn't a pretty picture for him. Another person was riding in the back of the box. It's not legal to do that. He was, and he fell out and it killed him. And people do stupid things. That girl that's just outside where I live, she was 14 years old. She wasn't legal to run that. Now, unless she was using it for farming, and I don't know,
Yeah.
but I don't think so. But she
Never
was
seen
riding a
it
bike
taped.
across the road, and that might have happened.
Right.
It was sad. She wasn't legal to run that machine, and it happened. And then another lady, he had an obstruction on the road, went off the road and then into a creek. She did have her seatbelt on, but but she drowned. So there's 4. I'm talking about UTVs, because mostly that's what, there are a few ATVs you'll see out there. Most of those people want to ride what we call dirt or trails, and they go up north. And what you're gonna see down here are UTVs. These things are, I said it the last time, the machine I had, the state allows you to put automotive tires on them now, and most guys do. It's a whole lot more stable and
Can you regulate that?
well, if you do, if you make regulations other than what the state has, then you got to be able to enforce it. And you really want the cops to, check and see if he has automotive tires on. It isn't, most of the people, the soft tires they come with, they're soft and they wear down fast. So, and most of the guys, they wear them down and then they switch them over to automotive tires. You can do whatever you want. I mean, if you only want red machines out there, you probably can do that, but you're not going to want to. So,
But I mean, I would be concerned about them having the harder, that off-road tire versus
that's
the
soft
tire that's made for
roads.
hard surfaces.
Right.
The tires that come on the UTVs are soft. The roads are gonna tear them up more than the
Right,
tires.
kind of like I showed you with my machine,
Yeah.
you'll actually tear the tire up more than the
And that's what's made for off-road.
Right.
Technically, yeah.
But that's gonna be
And a lot of people do, if they are
And that's your
roads,
choice.
they will switch over to, they call it a mud car tire.
Yeah.
They will switch over to that.
It only affects the person driving that machine. It doesn't affect anybody else.
Oh, yes, it does.
How is that?
If he has an accident, I got EMS, I got fire that have to respond to that
Because of the soft tire?
because of the accident.
Oh, man, come on,
No,
geez.
but what do you
Chris, you got the same thing with the bicyclists.
Oh,
We've got
yes.
motorcycles. So why discriminate against one type of vehicle? You can't.
Because this is the only one that I have any say over.
The soft tire doesn't have an effect on
Well,
an accident.
you got motorcycles on and off road, enduro motorcycles that are legal to ride the roads, and those got off-road tires on them too. You know,
How
so
fast does
it's-
this go? Can I ask?
You can go 0 to
They can go the speed
55.
limit.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be afraid to take mine on the interstate, literally.
So
I wouldn't
do it,
want
but-
to do it.
I would,
are
but.
you going down like BB to the pig in this, or what's
No,
the
that's a
whole
county-
gist of it?
No, you can't
You'd
run.
have to get, that's a whole different permission category.
Where, I mean,
You guys only have authority over town roads.
I don't know, I have snowmobilers zipping around, crossing county roads as it
Legally
is, they
do.
still can't follow the regulations
Not
and they're in
legal.
private
Not
fields.
legal. And it's
It's
got
not
license
legal.
plates on them, the snowmobiles don't, and if the cop doesn't know enough to check the license plate before he puts his red lights on, and that's all he needs, and once he gets that license plate off the back.
And legally, a snowmobile can, I believe they can ditch bank it
No, they
from their
cannot.
house
No, they
to a
cannot.
trail,
To a trail.
to a trail.
My son-
Yeah, they
No
can.
trails on Vilas Road.
But they can
Zero.
legally,
Yeah,
They go in the ditch.
they can
legally
ditch
run the
bank
ditch.
it to get to the trail.
Because if Dane County came in and my son,
Not cross a county road
yes.
to get to the trail.
They can do that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a fact.
My son in our neighborhood was riding from his house to my house, just down the road. And in our neighborhood, you have to be 10 feet from the center of the road
With the snowmobile.
with a snowmobile. So
The
if
gist
they're,
of it is with that whole thing. and
but if you're
and-
going from our house, going down Vilas, to a seminary to get on the trails, she said that's fine.
This is nothing to do with snowmobile.
The Dane County cops, they gave my son a ticket.
The DNR said you can't.
This
It's,
is,
Cross the road
it's
to
a,
get-
it's a
unless you're-
county enforces that.
He can't, the snowmobile cannot get on public land. If he gets on somebody's field without,
trespassing.
then that's
Correct.
trespassing, but he can run that ditch.
And none of them want to ride the ditch because it's way too bumpy. So
Well,
we'll just go in the farmer's field.
Then he's trespassing.
What does this got to do with UTV?
We're paying.
I'm saying that it's hard enough to enforce the snowmobiles out in the township roads, and I'm being tailgated the whole way into my driveway, and cars are just flying. I mean, you just have to recognize that you're on roads that are different from Lake Mills and from Cambridge. These areas are populated much, much differently. The other half of the field is the city of Madison.
The
That's
fact,
the city of Madison.
Jefferson County, every single county road in Jefferson County, every single county road, these are speed limits of 55. I drive a semis I'm competing with, no problems yet. For every single county road in Dodge County, there's actually 19 counties out of 72, 100% of their county roads in the state of Wisconsin are open to ride these things. 100%. 32 that
I
are
would say the town
75%.
of Sunbury is just as busy as the town of
There
Cottage
isn't.
Grove.
Every
They're
single
approved
township
there.
in Dodge and Jefferson County are open.
Look at the Dells.
It isn't,
Yeah,
it isn't a
look
problem.
at
It really
Dell.
isn't. And the best part about it, guys, is we can talk about it all night. If it ever goes bad, for whatever reason, then it hasn't been happening anywhere.
You
Pull
can
it.
shut it down.
Take the signs down, pull it. You got 1 month or 1 meeting or 15 days or whatever, and take the signs down, and that hasn't happened anywhere.
And,
For fatality, motorcycles, there's, what was it, last year, 82 motorcycle deaths. There's nowhere near as many motorcycles as there are these machines in the state of Wisconsin. It's a fact.
There's nowhere near as many of these machines as there are motorcycles.
That's not true. According to statistics, state of Wisconsin, not true.
All right, well, you know what you need to do?
Yeah.
Yep.
Sir, can we get your name one more time, a little slower, so I heard it the right name and address?
Bill Blast.
Oh, I need the.
Mike Nordhaus,
Okay.
3882 Lawden Road.
Okay, we're a little slow.
We're too quick with the gun.
Maybe so.
Kim knows you guys.
Huh?
Kim knows you guys.
Yeah, Kim knows me.
Thank you.
Police, right?
Chris, who should, no, come on.
Okay, Grant County. Police know you.
Oh, maybe down there. Who should we how should we get the ball bouncing here with?
You can either bring it in and give it to Kim or myself.
But do we need to get together with people or should we just put our
I'll work
own
with you.
mind? Huh?
I'll work with you on this.
Should we just put our own thoughts where we want to be?
Your list together as to which ones you want.
Would you
Then
want to
we'll
see a
send-
priority and a secondary and something like that?
If you want to mark it that way, that's fine. And then we'll send it out to the other departments and then we'll schedule a meeting at the town.
Because, we would like to get this fairly soon because now it is the season for that kind of stuff.
Get her done.
Yep, get her
There's no
done.
reason why you can't. If you spend more than 15 minutes on it, you wasted your time. Really. That's a fact. And most of these towns now has been going through, the towns call us and said, hey, we want to open the Albany down there. Yeah, they wanted it. And actually,
All
with
over the town, my son-in-law works there and Bill actually went with them and they went out and marked where in the township itself had no expense. The signs were furnished.
We've got over 40
Who furnishes the
municipalities.
signs? You?
The DNR, right? Well, they get to that,
I didn't hear what he said.
the signs.
Where they come from? We
Who
get,
furnishes those?
well, we do. We get them through the state of Wisconsin. We got to buy them.
That's through your registration where they
We
come.
get them through Badger State Industry. The prison makes the signs and then we pay for them.
Okay.
And in the towns, we've been putting them up in the townships, but that's not hard. And they're just, if you go over the whole town, it's just informational signs. They're not regulatory signs. So nobody can get a ticket off that sign. So
Okay.
All right, we'll get on there.
And then you will set up what a meeting we should attend in.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anything else for the annual town meeting?
I move we adjourn.
Motion by Chrissy Williams to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
By Mike Duplay. There's no discussion on adjournment. Opposed? Thank you one and all.